Hello, Thalia. Thank you very much for submitting your first draft for the front side. Let's go ahead and jump over here and take a look. Now I've got this. I just want to get this in the window so we can see all the pertinent parts. Okay, this is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. It's good. I love the concept, the execution. That is a gorgeous illustration. Just beautiful. I do have a couple of concerns and some recommendations. Okay, so I think that the type itself is done pretty well. I'm down with the typeface. I think the typeface is really interesting. Um, Watch your kerning, though. We're not following the rules of kerning here. Remember those rules of kerning that we. And you know what? It's don't be discouraged because a lot of students. I teach this class a lot, and it seems like when it comes down to execution, students always forget. We gotta watch that kerning specifically in title case or display type. Um, so a lot of students are so excited to get their concept down on paper, they kind of overlook this. So I find myself making these comments on kerning in the first iteration of the front of the poster. I find it quite common that I make this comment. So watch your kerning. You know, definitely want to go through your kerning. Okay, the typeface is I think the green, the color itself, I think this green is just a little bit on border of creating a visual vibration here. So you might consider toning that down just a little bit. I just think it's a little too bright, a little too saturated, a little too vibrant. So you might consider toning that color down a little bit to avoid any kind of visual vibration. Um, Okay, now the problem that I'm having here, and hang on one second. Anyways, sorry about that. So what? So this is such a wonderful illustration. Really fantastic visual substitution here. My only recommendation here is that this could be construed as a T. So I want you to try to address that. So this Wangari is not Wangari Maathai. Yeah, Nobel winner, but definitely not a household name, right? So it's not to the point of where this is that recall or recognition will be able to immediately recognize this as Wangari. Since she's not a household name, it would just be horrible for this to be mistaken as Wengart Maathai. You see what I'm saying? For that reason, I would just reconsider that possibility. So I think it's pretty it's worthwhile investigating that. And if you show this to some of your families, or friends, or coworkers, or whatever, you might just even get some comments where they're not sure if that's an A or I'm sorry, an I or a T. So my recommendation is to just make that specifically clear that that is an I and not a T, and that or maybe consider moving the illustration to a different part of the letter forms. Your call, your call. I'm just a little concerned about that. It's not bad at all, but it's enough to warrant comment. Um, the type itself, as far as the composition goes, I think it's really interesting. You might consider adding a sans serif. I mean, I'm sorry, a serif here just for some typographic variety. This all cap here, I wouldn't recommend this. It really kind of all cap is synonymous with yelling, so we don't want to be too overly aggressive here. I think this placement is really interesting. That works out. The width of that works out pretty well. You had to kern this pretty tightly for that to work out. So I think it's okay. It works. As far as the placement of the whole typographic composition, I would recommend two things. Number one, supposing that this is exactly how it's supposed to be, all right, and we didn't have those comments about mistaking that for a T instead of an I, right? So what I would recommend is to just to kind of further this notion of growth with the plant. If we take this M right here and align it right there with that I, these vertical stems, if they're in perfect alignment, which they're not right now, if I take a straight edge, you can see they're not exactly perfectly aligned, close but not perfect. If those are perfectly aligned, you can kind of create, again, this visual exaggeration that this is the stem still. Just push that over a little bit. That'll maybe bring that a little bit closer just to make that tree a little bit larger. Do you see what I'm saying? To further emphasize the idea of growth. Then, since trees grow in the ground, I would take this whole composition and move it down in I'm sorry, this whole typographic composition, move it down in the picture plane, just to kind of emulate this, the idea of the tree growing up from the ground. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, other than that, I think it's fantastic. I think that it's a really, really outstanding first draft. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and say, you know what, if you have any questions at all, please let me know. If anything I said in the last 6 minutes doesn't make sense, please let me know. Or if you have any questions at all on where to move from here, just again, let me know. All right, great start. Thank you very much for sharing.